Hello everyone, my name is Anna and I welcome you back to another video here on the channel of Jóvenes Peregrinando. In today's video, we are going to continue seeing the corbanots or the sacrifices that the Eternal continues to give to Moses for the people of Israel in order for them to get closer to their Creator. How we have been seeing throughout this book, we have been learning in detail that the people of Israel had certain instructions on how they could or how they should prepare in every way to be able to appear before the Eternal throughout the specific sacrifices that there would be. In today's video, we're going to be focusing specifically on a peace offering that the people of Israel had to give to the Eternal. Today's video is titled Make Peace with the Eternal, and it is going to be focused on Leviticus 3. Starting off with verses 1 and 2 of chapter 3, it says, "If his offering is a sacrifice of peace offering, if he offers an animal from the herd, male or female, he shall offer it without blemish before the Eternal. And he shall lay his hand on the head of his offering and kill it at the entrance of the tent of the meeting. And Aaron's sons, the priests, shall throw the blood against the sides of the altar." We can read here that if an Israelite brought a peace offering, and if he brought it from his cattle, whether it was a male or female, it had to be presented to the Eternal without defect. And also the person who brought this peace offering before the animal was slaughtered and its blood was sprinkled on all the sides of the altar by the sons of Aaron, that person had to place his hands on top of the animal's head, so that way his sins would be transmitted to the animal. In these verses, we can also see that the Eternal orders Moses on how the Israelites should bring their peace offerings. This sacrifice of peace in Hebrew is called shelamim, and this sacrifice was to give gratitude to the Eternal. When an Israelite had a fullness of peace, sincerity, and security in the Eternal, then they offered this peace offering to show their gratitude towards Him. In addition, they also had to recognize that only through the Eternal they could overcome the adversaries and the sin and the difficult situations that would come in their lives. It can sometimes be easy for us to think about what kinds of problems the people of Israel might have had. Let's remember that the Israelite men, specifically, would come across confrontations of wars against their enemies. Also, the people of Israel would also come across idolatries that the other people would do towards their gods. They would also come across illnesses, and as human beings they would also have to fight against their internal carnality every single day. As we have studied in the first two books of the Torah, the Eternal never promised the people of Israel an easy life. It is necessary, and it was necessary for them to have a sacrificial life where they had to fight every single day. Now, when the people of Israel brought this peace offering, it was with joy in their hearts of a splendid peace of feeling safe, confident, and knowing that they had a living and real Elohim. According to the dictionary, the word peace means freedom from disturbance. It is tranquility. But at the same time, in the dictionary, the word peace means a state or period in which there is no war or a war has ended. As we can see, for the world, peace or the word peace is avoiding conflicts, whether it is between people, between countries, between religions, and ideologies. Now, the question is, has the Eternal in the scriptures taught us that we are not going to have conflicts in this world? First, it is important for us to know what is the Hebraic definition. Peace, or shalom, as it is said in Hebrew, comes from Hebrews 7,965, which means good, safe, happy, friendly, and well-being. As we can see, the Hebrew concept is very different from the world's concept. It is not just about an absence of conflicts, but it is about a state of fulfillment. It is the quality of being full, complete, of feeling safe, of feeling and confident, but overall of being complete in the eternal. It is important to understand that this is not something that the human being can achieve by their own means, but rather it is granted by the eternal. Now, let's remember that the words of the Messiah tell us that he did not come to earth to bring the world peace, something that the world has been waiting on and continues to wait for. Let's remember that having fulfillment in the eternal is having the understanding and discernment of the instruction to put them into action, and thus be reconciled to the Father. And if we are reconciled, then we will reject the world, and thus we are going to become friends and children of the eternal. This teaches us that when we come to give thanks to the eternal, it has to be with a full understanding of what we are doing, coming to him firmly, having full faith in what has been said and what has been promised in his word, being mature and complete in knowledge that produces true joy. In these verses, we can also read that the person had to put his hand on the head of the animal. But we can wonder, why is it that they had to do this if this was a peace offering and not a sacrifice for sin? But due to the fallen condition of humanity in sin, it was not and it is not possible to approach the eternal. That is why we need a means. In this case, for the people of Israel, their means was or were animal sacrifices. But for today and our days, our median is the Messiah. And although we can sometimes believe that we are walking in obedience, that we are striving not to be contaminated with this world, even so, the Eternal tells us through his scriptures that we cannot approach him without a means. We are only accepted through the Messiah, who was the perfect Korban. We know that in the time of the people of Israel, the blood of the animal only covered the sins or their sins, but it could not wash, cleanse, or purify them. This offering only served to appease the Eternal's wrath. Continuing with verses 3 to 11, it says, "And from the sacrifice of the peace offering as a food offering to the Eternal, he shall offer the fat covering the entrails and all the fat that is on the entrails, and the 2 kidneys with the fat that is on them at the loins, and the long lobe of the liver that he shall remove from the kidneys. Then Aaron's sons shall burn it on the altar on top of the burnt offering, which is on the wood on the fire. It is an offering with a pleasing aroma to the Eternal. If his offering for a sacrifice of peace offering to the Eternal is an animal from the flock, male or female, he shall offer it without blemish. If he offers a lamb for his offering, then he shall offer it before the Eternal. Lay his hand on the head of his offering and kill it in front of the tent of meeting, and Aaron's sons shall throw its blood against the sides of the altar. Then from the sacrifice of the peace offering he shall offer as a food offering to the Eternal its fat. He shall remove the whole fat tail, cut off close to the backbone, and the fat that covers the entrails, and all the fat that is on the entrails." Verse 10, "And the 2 kidneys with the fat that is on them at the loins, and the long lobe of the liver that he shall remove from the kidneys. And the priest shall burn it on the altar as a food offering to the Eternal." In these verses, we can read that it is mentioned 2 parts or 2 other parts of the animals that would be used for sacrifices, which are the kidneys and the liver. These have to do with our life, since these two parts are two body parts that filter, clean, and purify and keep the body clean of toxins. The kidneys remove waste from the blood and excess water in the form of urine, and helps maintain the balance of chemicals such as sodium, potassium, and calcium in the body. The liver regulates most of the chemical levels in the blood and excretes a product called bile, which helps break down fats and prepares them for further digestion and absorption. We know that if these parts are full of fat due to a poor diet, then it can cause diseases. For example, a fatty liver can lead to a death. We also know that the fat represents sin. Excess fat can be in this context as anger, bitterness, hatred, rejection, and grief. Now, for the spiritual part, these parts represent the filtering of our understanding and discernment that we have to discern the Torah. And we can ask ourselves, what is the function of the Torah in our lives? Its function is that it washes and purifies us from the inside. This filtration is vital to have the ability to retain what is good. It is knowing how to separate between the holy and the profane, in living a life in darkness or in light, in being a tree that bears good fruit or bears bad fruit. In Leviticus 10, verse 10, it tells us the importance of distinguishing between the right and wrong. It says, "You are to distinguish between the holy and the common, and between the unclean and the clean." In these verses, we can also read that the high priest had to burn the fat together with the kidney and the liver, and everything had to be consumed. This teaches us that we cannot approach the Eternal in sickness, but that we have to approach Him with all our body parts in order, but especially and most importantly to approach in order the Eternal spiritually. Because a person can be very healthy from the outside or physically, but from the inside it can be corrupted, which is useless. That is why it is important to know that we must make an effort every day so that the Eternal continues to clean our lives throughout His instructions. The last verses of chapter 13 of this chapter 3, verses 12 and through 17, it says, "If his offering is a goat, then he shall offer it before the Eternal, and lay his hand on its head and kill it in front of the tent of the meeting. And the sons of Aaron should throw its blood against the sides of the altar. Then he shall offer it as his offering for a food offering to the Eternal, the fat covering the entrails and all the fat that is on the entrails, and the 2 kidneys with the fat that is on them at the loins, and the long lobe of the liver that he shall remove with the kidneys. And the priest shall burn them on the altar as a food offering with a pleasing aroma. All fat is for the Eternal. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwelling places, that you eat neither fat nor blood." In these verses, we can lastly see that the Eternal continues to give Moses specifications of how the process for this sacrifice would be, but in this case, it would take place with a goat, which would be brought to the Creator or to the Eternal through this peace offering. Once again, we can see in these verses that the Eternal gave or keeps giving different types of animals that could be presented to him. This was in case someone from the people of Israel did not have the means to present a lamb or a goat or another animal that the Eternal allowed. We also see in these verses that the priest could eat this sacrifice, since let us remember that the Eternal sustained the Levite tribe through the sacrifices that the people of Israel would give to the Eternal. Although they could not eat the fat or the blood of the korban that was presented to the Eternal, the reason why they couldn't eat the fat was because it represents sin. And that is the reason why in these sacrifices the fat had to be totally consumed. The blood also couldn't be eaten and can't be eaten because it represents the sacrifice that Yeshua was going to fulfill. And well, this is all for today's video. Thank you very much for taking your time and watching this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave it down in the comment section down below. Thank you and have a good day.